the more you can come into the centre and get a view, the better it will be. So, welcome everyone to Arundel Castle, which in the Roman period didn't exist, of course, because we're looking at about 1800 years ago. So this was the province of Britannia. It became Britannia after the Roman invasion in the 1st century AD under the Emperor Claudius, AD 43. So by the 3rd century AD, you as Britons, Romano-Britons as you are now, you had dropped your barbarian ways, you'd stopped painting yourselves in woad and throwing spears at people, and settled down into the Roman peace and doing fairly well in the province. Agriculture is doing well, lots of trade with the continent, importing lots of things such as olive oil and wine. And the other things that you were adopting as Romano-British citizens was the culture of Rome. And the higher status you were, the richer you were in that society, the more you wanted to identify with those cultural things. So if you look at the south, particularly the south of England, there are fantastic Roman villas. Some of you might have been to Bigner Roman Villa, just down the road, or indeed the Roman Palace, really, at Fishbourne. Lovely luxuries, underfloor heating, baths, mosaics, etc. The things that you would adopt were the cultural entertainments. So, chariot racing, sure. The other big thing was gladiatorial combats. Originated in Italy, probably something like the 3rd or 4th century BC, but now swept across the empire in something like at least 200 arenas, and actually embedded here in Britain. And for those of you who are local, Chichester down the road here, Roman town of Novi Omegas, has got an arena just outside the city walls. So you as that Romano-British audience wanted to identify and see these cultural entertainments, the gladiators, and you would come for miles to come and see them. And what you might have had back 1800 years ago is a touring group of gladiators from Rome to entertain you. And someone called a sponsor, editor, would put on those games for you. So first of all, I'd like you to give a big hand to my senior gladiators. These are the people that I own. I'm the lanista, the owner of Gladiators. My 2 senior gladiators, who are the trainers of this troupe at the moment. They're the doctores of the group. So please give me a hand, please, for Corvia and Marcus, please. I'd also like you to give a big hand to the person giving you security to make sure these gladiators don't revolt and run you through. Please, to Nicias at the back here, our Roman soldier. For those of you who have watched some of the series on Spartacus, you will know what happens when gladiators revolt. So, just talking about 2 doctores at the moment. First of all, Corvia Britannia, her name. So you can tell from that she's a local girl. Okay, big hand. She's your local representative here from Britain. And you would be extremely honoured and pleased to see a woman gladiator called a gladiatrix. Quite rare, but well accredited in the archaeological record. For those of you who go to the British Museum, you will see some stones there commemorating some battles between the gladiatrixes in Turkey. So, on my left, please, a big hand for Marcus. Marcus, come forward. So, Marcus really showing off here the different weapons that you'll know about from perhaps Hollywood. He's got the weapons of the retiarius, the net and the trident. So you would be very interested in these gladiators. You would be interested in their form, what class they were. Okay, so Roman society is extremely hierarchical. So Roman gladiators, although they are in some ways at the bottom of the heap, they're down there with slaves, and many of them obviously were slaves, they are regarded really with some sort of hero worship, a bit like nowadays we might look at pop stars or footballers, etc. But they are the lowest class. Within the gladiators themselves, there are 5 classes. Top class, which you 2 that you've got to see before you, primus palus, and you have 4 underneath that. The lowest being the tiro, who is a trainee gladiator, would need to fight and win his battles in the arena in his first year. So, audience, you're interested in these gladiators, you want to see theatre, you want to see show, you might want to see blood, you're a fairly bloody lot 1800 years ago, and you want to know that the weapons that were being used were not fake. And so what you'd have in the arena early on is that the gladiators would show you that these weapons were not wooden, they're not fake news, and I'm going to ask them to do that. So gladiators, come forward please, and I want you to attest please, audience, that these are real, they're metal, they're heavy, and they're able to do damage. A lot of you will see before you the short stabbing sword, the gladius of the Roman army. These young gentlemen here have just holding this one. Gentlemen, is that a real sword? Yeah, okay. Now, these people here are looking at the trident. What does that feel like? Is that a real hefty piece of work? Yeah?
Just a little bit.
Okay, so we're not trying to dupe you. These are real weapons. And what you're going to see now is some training and then some free fighting. This is not choreographed, this is not staged. The gladiators in front of you will be using the weapons in a similar way. One of the things we're often asked is, were all fights to the death? Any answers from the audience? What do you think? Yes or no? No. Oh, a bit of a mix there. Those of you who said no, you're correct. For a gladiator to die in the arena would cost a lot of money to the sponsor, because they're highly trained and they would have to pay me as their owner for that death. So very often they were not to the death. Often it's the emperor who has the money to afford that sort of contest. So you would be often seeing skilled combat to watch this sort of finer points. So what we're going to do first is some training. So Marcus and Corby are going to get them going to warm up their muscles, to get them into a fit state to then do some bouts for you. So Marcus is organising the round into 2 lines. They'll just begin to getting their sword arms going.
Head and shoulders.
In a gladiatorial school, as it was called, one of the principal ways of training was up against a wooden post called a palace. And indeed, some of the archaeology at the recently, one in Austria, they found the remnants of the post hole still in the gladiatorial school. So many of these gladiators were slaves. They may have been captured in the wars of Rome on the frontier. Particularly prized, I would think, were those barbarians caught on the German frontier, on the Danube, and on the Rhine. The Gauls also were well prized.
Head and legs.
So although you may have been looked after as a gladiator, because I would want them to be in good shape in order to win their bouts, the more bouts they win in the arena, the more money I will earn. The gladiators themselves would get a small purse from winning. And it was possible for a gladiator to buy their freedom.
Legs, shoulders, head.
The other way that they might get their freedom is if they performed so well in the arena, the sponsor might free them, or they might ask the audience to give permission to free them. And that was typically something an emperor would do, because the emperor had the money to finance that. Why would an emperor do that for the audience? Why would he want to pay out the money?
Oh.
It's now politics. So you're seeing theatre, but this is also politics, because the emperor or a magistrate or whoever it was putting on the games wanted to buy the goodwill and the support of firstly the Roman mob in Rome, or just the audience there. So Marcus is now in the centre. He's taking on each individual, just gauging how well they're using the sword, their movement. They're warming up nicely before their individual bouts. I'll explain something about their equipment as they come forward for their pairs. So those of you, those in front of you here will see that one of the gladiators is covered in tattoos. These are pict. Pict meaning pictures in Latin. What you would, from where you would now call Scotland. The Picts up there, a warlike tribe. So barbarians making very good gladiators. They've already been trained from an early age in the martial arts. So Corvia in the centre now. In fact, we've got two female gladiators here. We've got Corvia and we've got Achillea of Thrace in the golden helmet. Thrace is modern Bulgaria. So you're drawing gladiators from all across the empire. And Petrus going through the paces there, Petrus Picti. Now the young man who's just wielding a sword there, dressed in the leather armour, he's not a gladiator, not a trainee gladiator either. He's a younger son of a British nobleman who's given charge to me for a while to train in the martial arts. Why would that happen? It was expected for a Roman noble to be trained and then to move into the legions to further his career. After the legions, he would become a magistrate, and hopefully at some stage he might even enter the Roman Senate. So a young noble Roman would be expected to be a very skilled and knowledgeable person, both in terms of literature, Greek, obviously Latin, but also in the martial arts, the skills of the sword, the gladius. Okay, Marcus has just stopped that, and he'll get people ready for the bouts. Big hand, please, for the gladiators. The weapons are extremely heavy, and I assure you, it takes a lot of training not to decapitate anyone, to be honest. Right. So, who are we going to see first, Marcus?
Draco, Falco.
Okay, big hand, please, for Draco and Falco coming onto the arena floor. So, I've already said that Draco is the son of a nobleman. Very important that he's not killed this morning, otherwise my pension is going south. Let's see what he's dressed in. Beautiful leather armour. A helmet in leather that is indicating that he's from Greece. Now, it's very typical of the Romans. They would put armour and insignia or whatever it is onto an opponent in the arena that would say something about the glory of Rome's conquests in the past. So, obviously, Rome conquered Greece well before Christ. It conquered the East, it conquered Egypt, it conquered Thrace, it conquered Britain, obviously, a bit later. So the Romans are trying to say, look at us, we conquered these barbarians and we're going to put them in the arena. So, Draco's going to be fighting with the spear, which is, again, a typical Greek weapon. And on my left, we have Falco. So, what have we got here? We've got the typical gladiatorial helmet. And what I mean by that is, very different from Roman armies. So if you look at Nissus over there, he hasn't got the facial cover. But here for Falco, very typical, very intimidating to an opponent. You can't see their faces. Spear again, round shield. This style is of the Hoplomachus, Greek warrior, hoplite, and the round shield of the hoplite. Padding on his legs, which he will need because Draco is extremely skilled with that spear, and because of the height difference, I think Falco will find that that spear is going for his lower legs and his feet quite a lot. So you ready, you two? Okay, gladiators. Now, you think he's the underdog, but who thinks Draco might actually win this bout? Yeah, come on, the young nobleman, come give him a shout. Needs some encouragement. Young nobleman, he's British, so he's a Brit. So let's see how he'll do. Okay, the experienced gladiator here, 4th class gladiator, doing very well in the arena, I have to say. We've got high hopes for him, for Falco. Yes, Falco, you think he's going to breeze this one? It'll be the first disabling or killing blow, so we'll see. Satus. Oh, going in nice. Come on, give him a hand, please, this young man. Yeah. So these spears are quite heavy. You don't want to be hit by them. You notice.
Go on, Falco!
Not just used for stabbing, but actually swinging them round. So trying to get behind the shield, sweeping and stabbing.
Go on, Falco!
Falco hasn't got a lot of protection on the upper body. That's a typical gladiatorial style. You know, not lots of armour as you see in the medieval period. As I say, the crowd often would like to see some blood. Come on, give him a hand, everyone. Falco's really working hard here. Draco's defending very well indeed. Oh, almost got him behind the shield there by a young man. Okay.
Go on, Falco!
Come on, you've got. Okay, stop that. I think we're going to give this to Draco. Caught him in the tendons behind the knee. Okay. Big hand, please, Falco. You'll see him again later today. He performed exactly what I told him because he needed not to kill that young man. As I say, my wages are more important than most things. Right, who have we got here? So Corvia is going to come in. So top class gladiator, top class gladiatrix, Primus Pallas, and fighting Achillea of Thrace. Let's look at Achillea. Give him a big hand, please. Golden helmet. Something indicating the tribes, the Celtic tribes. Again, Rome saying, you know, we defeated the Celtic tribes here. We've got leather armour, typically Greek. Circular shield, beautiful painting on the shield, just show that up Achillea. Okay, the Gorgon, so the Medusa, very typical Rome, looking to the ancient Greek myth, etc. Short stabbing sword, the gladius there, Greek style armour. Okay, Corvia, wearing what's known as a provocateur helmet, full face, round shield, leather on the leading sword arm, which is called a manica, the leather, and greaves. Okay, so Corvia, you know, should do well on this. She's a top class gladiator. Achillea's 4th class, but doing extremely well. You might see her throwing a net a bit later if you're lucky. So you close gladiators. Okay, who thinks senior gladiator Corvia will win this?
Corvia!
Corvia, Britannia, another Brit, or a Thracian, a young Thracian.
Boo!
Oh, a few boos there, half luck, Achillea. So, the local girl seems to have it. Let's see, go. So closing, again those round shields giving some good defence. Looking for the opening. Very enclosed in that helmet by Corvia. Full face against the open face of Achillea.
Go on, Corvia!
Very skilled, these two with these gladiuses.
Go on, Corvia!
Circling, looking for the opening. Oh, yeah, a nick on the right arm onto Corvia, but she's got that leather armour. You can see why that manica protects that lead sword arm. Again,
Bloody hell.
you might get some blood, but not too much. Okay, oh, very close.
Biggest crowd the Romans have ever had. Yeah. Oh.
Yes! Okay, Corvia, the winner, Victor. Slice across the kidneys on the right. Very skilled. Come and look at these swords afterwards, everyone, if you haven't felt them already. And a big hand for Achillea of Thrace. Okay, This is in some ways the primus, the main bout you might have seen. Just to say something about how a day would go in the arena, you would have had the beast hunt in the morning if you were at the Colosseum. The afternoon, lunchtime, you would have watched the execution of the criminals. In the afternoon, you had the real gladiators, those who fought men, and at the end, you'd have the major bout. So who we've got here? We've got Marcus as the Retiarius. Big hand, please, for Marcus. Top class gladiator, Primus Palace. So it takes years to specialise in these types of weapons. Okay, you had to be a really good gladiator with the sword before you could go on to using the net. Very dangerous. If you miss with the net, there's a good chance you're going to get run through. And the man who's going to be doing the running through is Petrus. A big hand, please, for Petrus Picti from Pictland, of northern Britain. I just say something about how Petrus is armed. Look at this. I mean, you would not see someone like this in the Roman army. You wouldn't see that in the Roman army either. But look at this. Look at this. First of all, let's put that down. Let's put the helmet. Now, why do you think that helmet has got little round eye holes and that funny fin? Why do you think? Yeah, so he can see, and he's got protection. It's good, very good protection. And the protection that we're looking at is that great big trident that Marcus has got. So not to penetrate through the eye sockets. And what about this fin? You'll see what happens with that is this neck. The neck catches on virtually anything, any sharp corner. So what the Romans have done, they've adapted the helmets to have this fin. Some people say, they were done to cut through the net. I don't think so. It's mainly to stop them catching. The other thing about Petrus, he's got the manica on his right arm, the Roman army shield, the scutum, not a lot else. Okay, not a lot else. Full face helmet against Marcus, who will be trying to move around and dart around to try and net him. Okay, so if you think our Primus Palace Gladiator Doctore will win, Marcus, shout, please, give him a hand.
Marcus!
Retiarius. Or against our Secutor, Petrus. Secutor. Okay, I think Petrus, you've got some Scottish support here today. Right, okay, so this is going to be the best of three. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, gladiators, I'm going to get out of the way quickly here. Go! So Marcus will be looking to get this net over him. He's gone for the early throw and failed. He's in trouble unless he can get that net back quick. As Petrus will close on him, get within the range of that. He hit his armoured guard there. Petrus is keeping him away from the net. Sliced him. Okay, stop there. Okay, so Petrus first blow. So you can see what happens if you don't get that net throw right. So Marcus's reputation is hanging by a thread here. He's really got to do something about this. Gladiators, can you go forward a bit nearest the crowd? Don't net the crowd though, Marcus, please.
Please do.
Satus. Okay, come on, cheer for them. Is Petrus going to do it? Is it going to be 2-0?
Come on, Marcus. Come on, Marcus.
Come on, Marcus. Go.
Yeah.
He's got the net. Oh. He's in the same position, I'm afraid. Can he retrieve? Yes. Yeah. Oh.
Come on, Marcus.
Catch his feet in it.
Very skilled, both of these two men. Very skilled. But that net is key to being able.
Go on, Marcus.
Very nicely done. Kept him at bay with the trident while he picked it up. Okay, so the other tricks he might use, he might try and sweep it under Petrus and take his legs from under him. Or he might
Go
try
on, Marcus.
The throw again. He's not having a good day, Marcus. Is he caught again? Yes, okay, big hand please. Petrus, Hentai, Secutor. Now everyone, although this wasn't to the death, what Marcus is helping demonstrate here is what would happen in the arena should it have been to the death. So what he's doing, and actually Petrus is going through the motions there of what would have happened as well. So Marcus has got his 2 fingers up here in his right hand, and he's asking for missio, in other words, clemency. The emperor would, if the emperor was here, say to the crowd, did he fight well enough? Should he live another day? What would you do as a crowd if the emperor asked you, live or die?
Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Useless anyway!
Okay, it's very interesting how the younger members of the audience are so bloodthirsty, isn't it? Is it funny? We noticed this yesterday. Okay, so well, he's not gonna die, chaps, because my bank balance is more important than your goodwill. So yes, in the arena, Petrus would finish him off, but he's not going to. So go back you go. Right. So you will see us later today. We've got another performance at 1 o'clock, and then later at the 3 o'clock grand melee, etc. But please, can you give a big hand to the gladiators out here? And also, please, also Synesius, our Roman soldier. Please come and talk to the gladiators afterwards, after they've got their breath back. And thank you very much, audience.